When we first walked through the house, they said, we feel like we're in a tree house. And it's because of the openness and the light and the windows and the level that you walk into the house and you're literally surrounded by the tree line.
One of the things that we do think a lot about context in different ways. And part of it is relating to the character of a given neighborhood. Other times it's really thinking about the microclimate on that given lot, whether it is the trees that Amanda's referring to, or the existing conditions, the slope, and those types of things. But context matters a lot for us, and that doesn't always mean that we mimic the context that's there, but we want to try to at least respect what's there. In the case of this house, it's actually a 3-story house, but you wouldn't guess it from the street, and there aren't other 3-story houses, at least you can't tell from the street around. So the approach was how can we accommodate these various levels in a way to where it doesn't feel too large from the street. And that's an example of responding to context without copying and mimicking what's next door or across the street.
In any of our work, we're really trying to focus on the connection to the outside with anything that we design. And so a lot of clients will think initially that the view is always the big expansive view, and I don't think that's always the priority. I think some spaces need a shortened view, or a view into the treetops or the sky, or a very curated tailored view like in a courtyard or up against a retaining wall, and I think this house does all of those things really well. I think it's interesting sitting in the dining room in that the level of the tabletop is the same as the lawn as it comes up to the glass, and so you feel like you're sitting below the ground level, and that's a really interesting space to be in, because I don't think you get to experience that very often. And then sitting above the ground level in other places, seeing the treetops, seeing the expansive view down the hill, I think it just has a lot of opportunities for experiential space.
So when we were approached to do the project, there was a blank lot with a lot of opportunity. And we started with that. We started by thinking what would make the most sense to get the most out of this lot, seeing what its challenges and opportunities were, one of the main challenges being the topography, but to use that as an opportunity to set up a unique set of experiences to do with that topography and with the trees. And so it came from rather than being a custom home where you work through the specific interests of a given client, this was thinking a little more generally of how do we just create something that would really just be a nice quality proportion spaces with a nice amount of light that responds to the existing conditions. But we try to define fairly early on in our design process what the key conceptual drivers and formal drivers are that keep us going, and we want to check back to that as we go. And in this case, the notion of the bracketed space house has to do with these brackets or portions of space which are sometimes carved out or added onto the otherwise U-shaped courtyard scheme that create intimate moments and disrupt an otherwise very boxy scheme.
And so the way we approached this house really was to separate the public and private wings of the home. So we have all the living spaces on one side of the lot, kind of splayed out of the unique geometry of the lot, and we have the public spaces on the other side. And we've used the dining room as a kind of glass bridge or breezeway in between the two spaces. It's open, it's airy, it's kind of It's not a private space and it's not a public space. It's something that if you're occupied in the space, you're not concerned about privacy, so it can be open. It allows a sense of discovery upon approaching the house. So when you walk up to the front door and you see that space and you see the expanse of the lot as it moves down the hill, and I think that's really exciting to see that unravel. And we've used the retaining wall as it moves through the project, not just in the front, but you see that reveal itself all throughout the project, and it kind of unwinds the project as it steps down the hill, and that's kind of the organizing element of the home.
the part of the wow factor is just to do with the uniqueness of the site and how we design to try to set up that sequence, that procession of experience to where there is the big reveal in the back to this other almost kingdom that you couldn't have guessed from the front.
It is eye-catching from the street view, whether it's daytime or nighttime. The windows and seeing through the dining room and highlighting the light fixtures, the furniture, seeing out through the pool area, and vice versa when you're standing in the backyard looking through the home. And right now the Christmas tree is set up. I mean, it is just, it's the perfect spot. But while you're in the dining room, you see through to the entry and even glancing into the powder bathroom wall covering and even down into the media room and the staircase. You see so much from the central part of the house, exterior and interior.